Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, good people, and happy Tuesday. Well, welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. I hope your week has been started off well, and you're staying warm out there because I know it is quite chilly. Man, it's cold. That's just no other way to put it. But we're hoping warming it up for you. Hope everything is going well and looking forward to another fun day. Here on the program is Mike DeCourcy will join us here in a little bit. And we'll also get to some other things later on in the second hour. Evan Miyakawa will join us, and we're going to break down some numbers on the college basketball season. But plenty to get to last night in the NFL, of course. The Rams and the Vikings open up the playoffs, and the Rams get a surprising win over the Vikings, man. An upset. Big win for LA, especially with all that's going on out there. So hope that helps in some way. But yeah, things are rough out there in LA, man. It's crazy. The homes and neighborhoods that have just been wiped out. It's nuts. Where did shenanigans go? I lost it. Had him, but said it was balmy 11 degrees there. But plenty to get to. Caitlin Clark has a stalker. Serious. A 55-year-old Texas man was arrested on felony stalking charge in Indianapolis Sunday after he allegedly and repeatedly sent threats and sexually violent messages to Fever guard Caitlin Clark via social media, according to court documents. I think he was reaching out to her via X, which really sucks because that means I guess she had her messages open, which is cool. But now for people like me, who that's one way we cannot reach people now. And that's why it's nuts. But this guy was from Texas, Denton, Texas, charged with a level 5 felony after arrested at an Indianapolis hotel. He was scheduled to appear in court this morning. So we'll see how that goes. He could face up to 6 years in prison. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Amir said the IMP first spoke to him on Wednesday about his alleged messages and told him, don't do that. But he'd been sending messages like, been driving around your house 3 times a day, but don't call the law just yet. The public is allowed to drive by Gamebridge, a.k.a. Caitlin's field house. Then I'm getting tickets. I'm sitting behind the bench. And he said, they said I'm sending threatening messages, but the only thought on my mind was Caitlin. Crazy. Other messages were sexually violent, according to the court documents. Of course, Caitlin Clark said she feared for her safety, which was an understatement probably. But this jackleg didn't stop. After the police spoke with him, he kept doing it. So he is where he belongs and hopefully stays there. I mean, he traveled from Texas. He told police he was in an imaginary relationship with Caitlin Clark and that let's see, what was it he said? He was an imaginary relationship with Caitlin Clark and something else. I forget what he said, but it was crazy, obviously. But hopefully she can be kept safe out of that. It was kind of nuts. I'm trying to find that quote. Daggone it, because it was just as crazy as this seems. The imaginary relationship, and I forget what. He was in an imaginary relationship with Caitlin Clark, and here in Indianapolis on vacation from Texas. So yeah, that made a lot of sense. How about Curtis Rourke playing on the? Now everybody's getting jacked up, thinking that he had a complete tear in his ACL. He probably had a tear in his ACL, not torn completely through, because I don't think that you could do much if it was torn all the way through. And I'm not trying to downplay his toughness, because believe you me, that's one tough SOB. There's no way that wasn't painful, hurting, limiting. Then you add in the thumb issue that he played with. That dude is as tough as they come, man. He's tougher than a circus hamburger. But he is getting surgery actually on that. I forget exactly what they called it, but he's getting it fixed regardless. Dallas has parted ways with Mike McCarthy. And guess who is in the conversation with old Jerry boy? Prime time. I did not know that she was getting her own. Zap hitting us up on the Andy Moran hotline says, did you know Caitlin is getting her own Bud Light can? No, I did not. Primetime has spoken with Jerry Jones because there's an opening at head coach for the Cowboys, and he used to play for the Cowboys. And with things not being great in Dallas, I could see Jerry Jones making this move. And Dion has said that he will only go to an NFL team if he could coach his two sons. That wouldn't be a problem. We've seen this happen. Now, that would be a little bit more understandable, but we'll pick that back up on the other side. We got to take a quick break. When we return, the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten Network, and Fox joins us back with more when we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studio.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tuesday, and we welcome the great Mike DeCourcy with us as always. Mike, how are you, sir?
I am doing well, Jim. How are you?
I cannot complain. I'm staying inside and out of that cold weather out there that's not going anywhere, although it's going to get warm and by warm, I mean up to 40, maybe Friday, Saturday, then back down like 5 degrees. Indiana plays Illinois tonight, so I don't have a choice. I gotta go outside. Man, if it wasn't for these games, I swear, Mike, I would just kind of hibernate. But that's been the only thing that has forced me to go out of twice now. I've had to clean the car off with the first time was like 8 or 9 inches of snow, and then the second time another 4 or 5. But it's wintertime, right? What are you complaining about? It's winter, so no big.
Yeah, there was one time I was talking to Jim Boeheim, probably 20 years ago or something like that.
Oh man, I bet he knows about some snow.
Exactly, and we were talking. I will tell you. I will tell you that. I'll tell you the story about him. First, and I asked him about like the fact that he stayed at Syracuse all those years through all those winters, when clearly he would have had many opportunities to go somewhere warmer if he wished. And what he told me then was 7 months out of the year, it's as beautiful a place as you could live. And the other 5 months are basketball season. So it didn't matter. That was what he said, yes.
That's about as, plus he could probably afford, well, not that I'm not sure how much time they had, I was going to say, to get away, but there's that. Lots of things going on. First of all, I talked earlier, Caitlin Clark is a stalker, and this guy's a nut job. He came up from Texas. He said he was in an imaginary relationship with Caitlin, and he came to Indianapolis on vacation from Texas. Yes, the weather, the Indianapolis weather in January is what you call Chamber of Commerce weather, not, but yeah, that's you hate to see that stuff and things that they have to deal with.
And don't envy the celebrities that. Yes.
No, and it's not just the women. I mean, it may be women more in that regard, but it's not always. And then you've got all these pro athletes that have had their homes broken into, and we're not talking 1 or 2. It's like up to what, 5, 6, 7. I know that there was an FBI thing that was sent out saying, hey, guys have got to be aware. My first question is, how in the hell do these guys not have the most highest technologically advanced alarm systems in their homes already? And how can it be that, I don't want to say easy to do this, but it's a little surprising that they were able to, all these were able to happen.
Yeah, this is a phenomenon that existed for a long time in England with professional soccer players, with the superstar soccer players. It's been going on for the better part of the last decade, I would say. Maybe, it might be as recently as 6 or 7 years, but it's been going on for a while in that sense. And I think it's something that other criminals said, hey, that could work. I mean, they won't be there. We know when they won't be there. We know when Joe Burrow will not be at home. It's right on the schedule, and everybody in America knows it. And so I think that's difficult for them. And again, it's been a phenomenon tied directly to the playing schedule. When England had players at a World Cup, their homes were broken into because they're gone. All the players are gone for not just England's team, but for any team that is in a World Cup for probably close to 2 months when they're actively involved. It obviously depends on how long they last in the World Cup, but it can be as long as 2 months. And so it does put their homes at risk. And exactly what happened relative to, I know the Burrow case is the one I read the most about. Exactly what happened relative to the security of his home, I'm not sure. There was a person who was there, which I think complicates it because sometimes you're at your house and you may not be done going out, so you don't put the alarm system on or something like that. It could be as simple as that. So I don't really know what happened there, but it is something that the pro athletes have to be aware of when they are scheduled to play a game, and everybody in America knows that it's going to happen. They have to put themselves, they have to put their homes and their families in the most secure situations possible, whatever that entails. And I mean, it in a sense, I think you'd compare it, although somewhat unfairly, because they are victims and they are not perpetrators. But it's sort of similar. It's sort of a cost of doing business kind of thing. Just as you go out and have a couple of beers, maybe a couple too many, you have to know where that line is, and you're making millions. So just
and he's not talking about me, people, when he's talking about millions. Let me tell you.
I'm talking, but I mean, the athletes that we've seen and coaches that we've seen that wind up with DUI charges, you're making millions. Hire a driver. It's not that expensive. Couple $100, $300, $500 for the night. When you make $5 million a year, is not a lot of money. If that's how you want to enjoy yourself, and I don't have any, do it. If that's what you want to do it. It's your deal, but make sure that you're covered on the back end, either by having an Uber waiting for you, which isn't even $500, or a limo. Absolutely make sure that those things are taken care of. And on the what we're describing, I don't know that it would be a bad idea for athletes in that circumstance to make sure that that there's a security person in place until that ring is broken up. I think that's something that they would want to ponder.
I agree wholeheartedly, without question. Let's prime time to Dallas. I know people want to talk basketball, and we'll get there, but there's just so many things. I mean, that is going to be I'm not going to call it a match made in heaven, but it is between those two people, between Jerry Jones and Primetime. That's the perfect storm, I think, because Dion brings what Dion brings wherever he goes. He's going to pull LeBron, and his sons will both end up at Dallas without question if he ends up being the coach, because he said he will only go where he can coach both of his sons. I know, I noticed he didn't include Travis Hunter. I guess he knows he can't get Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders.
But there's no guarantee he can get Shedeur anyway.
I mean, true. The draft.
It's not. This is not LeBron Jr., where literally nobody in the NBA wanted him.
Right.
I mean, and that's no offense to Bronny, because he is the one, or his family are the ones who short-circuited his development. He might have been a fine pro prospect in another year or two, but coming out after 5.5 points a game, and the significant health issues that he experienced, nobody in the league wanted them. So it was easy for the Lakers to appease LeBron by doing that. Shedeur Sanders is going to be one of the prime. Sorry about that. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to do that. I did. One of the outstanding quarterback prospects in this draft. Nobody's standing aside so that Dion can coach his kid. Nobody. I mean, if they think he's good enough, they're not standing aside. Now, if they don't, and they think they can hustle the Cowboys, then they'll do it. But I'll be honest with you, I've never seen a play. I've watched a lot of college football. In order to get on my radar, they would have had to probably make the playoff. I mean, mostly when I watch college football, Jim, it's the places where I lived. IU, Memphis, Tennessee, Pitt, Penn State, Ohio State, Cincinnati Bearcats. That's a lot of football. And that's pretty much most of what we watch. And then whoever they encounter. So Colorado didn't come into that. So I have no opinion on Shedeur as a prospect. But if somebody like, let's use the Bears. No, it wouldn't be the Bears because they have a quarterback. But I'm trying to think of let's say it's the Jets. If somebody like the Jets is standing there and they think Shedeur is a great prospect and the guy who can lead them into the future, they're not appeasing Dion. They don't care. If they think that he is a C+ prospect and they can get 3 number ones for him, then they'll happily do it. So we won't know until the draft or until approaching the draft what the approach will be from the teams that are in that position.
We shall see. Tom Allen in the news. His name is being battered around. I'm surprised that Penn State would just let him go that easily, but Clemson is making overtures. As a matter, he's supposed to be the favorite to become the DC at Clemson under Dabo Swinney, who has taken a dip since he lost Brent Venables.
Yes,
and I'll tell you, Tom Allen's defense, I don't care. One thing I will say, he has always been good as a DC. When he came to Indiana, that kind of changed the program, and Kevin Wilson unfortunately couldn't keep up his end of the deal, and so it led to different change, which, boy, if Indiana could have probably stayed on that course, but it doesn't matter. They're where they are now, and everything works out the way it's supposed to work out. But he goes to Penn State. They have a great season, and now Clemson says, you know what? I think I could use some of that.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. It really is, because how much of that is that Penn State isn't happy? How much of it is that Tom isn't happy at Penn State? It has to be some of each for it to develop the way it has. Because I highly doubt that when Tom was hired, he was hired on a 1-year contract. I haven't looked it up, but I highly doubt that he was.
And I think I saw this would be if he leaves the 4th DC in 5 years. I
think it's 4th and 6th years, but still a lot.
Okay.
Now, some of those were people who got great opportunities, like
moved up,
head coaches. And some of it was displeasure with previous coaches. So you can go through, you can go through a number of coaches because one, their guys are getting better positions and better opportunities, or two, you're not happy with them. But when someone leaves in this circumstance, it's really curious because it either means that Tom wasn't happy working for James, or James wasn't happy with Tom's work. It has to be one of those. And there's, like I said, it's probably at least a little of both, because Penn State, if he's under contract, I don't know how they wouldn't just say, hey, no. If you want to be your head coach, we'll listen. But we're not letting him go if we love him. We're not letting him go because, he's got a signed contract. I'm not sure exactly why this is developing the way it is, but it certainly is a curiosity. There wasn't much to be said negatively about Penn State's defense this year.
They ended up 7th.
They did not defend the run very well in the Notre Dame game. It was not a great game for them defensively. It wasn't a bad game. It wasn't a great game. They didn't win the game on that side of the field. But other than that, I don't think they have a lot to complain about. So I don't think Penn State would be rationally unhappy with Tom's work.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, but I'm not sure that. Again, Penn State's one of those places where it's under James Franklin it's just been not always kumbaya, it seems like, for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but good luck to Tom and however that ends up, but plenty to get going there. But college basketball, who's the best player in the country Johnny Broom or Cooper Flagg?
Well, I think the best college player to this point, and Janai is going to lose some traction in the Player of the Year race because he's going to be absent. It's very rare that you can be Player of the Year while missing a significant amount of time. Evan Turner managed it in 2010, but it's been pretty rare that, if I remember correctly, Evan won it in a year where he missed a bunch of time. But I if there's another guy out there like Cooper Flagg putting up 42 points and all of that, the funny thing was, Jim, I was only mildly surprised that Cooper Flagg would go for 42. I was absolutely astonished that was an ACC record for a freshman. I would have thought that somewhere along the line, somebody would have put up a bigger number than that because of all the great players that went through there.
A lot of names. Yeah.
Now, we all know that Dean Smith could hold Michael Jordan under 20 points. We knew that. So that explains that phenomenon. But all the guys that went through there, nobody else did 42. I was surprised. I think Cooper Flagg is a phenomenal player. And I think that people are working really hard, Jim, almost overtime, to try to make him not the guy. This guy's going to be the pick. This guy's going to be the pick. When Janai is good, he's the Player of the Year. The best player in college basketball, the best talent and prospect is Cooper Flagg. The most complete player is Cooper Flagg. Now, Janai has been the best college basketball player to this point in the season. I'm not arguing with that. He has had a phenomenal year. He has made Auburn nearly unbeatable. I mean, he has been tremendous. But he'll be absent now for at least a week, maybe two. Those high, they have not said it's a high ankle sprain. They said it's a severe ankle sprain. If it's high, it could even go beyond 2 weeks. So that's a lot of momentum to lose. I mean, Zion was able to be Player of the Year as well, and I think he missed 2.5 weeks after injuring himself in the first Duke game in 2018-19 season. It's pretty rare to be able to do that. So if Cooper keeps doing what he did on Saturday, I think he'll end up, he'll end up quite likely being Player of the Year if Janai is out for multiple weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the Auburn squad is without question probably the best team in the country, but that's with, and is his first name pronounced John A?
Janai.
I'd say Janai. I've been calling him Johnny. Janai. Here's Janai. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll talk some Big Ten basketball because there's plenty coming up, including Indiana hosting Illinois tonight. Both teams needing to get back onto the winning side of things. The great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News is with us. We've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and we're back with it right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth and Distilling Company Studios. Appreciate you being with us. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with us as well, and the Big Ten Network as Big Ten basketball. Last night, Rutgers finally gets off the schneid, and in doing so, they push UCLA further down, who has now lost 3 straight. Mick Cronin not happy with the officiating, gets tossed, but also not happy with travel right now, but he'll get to play 7 straight games on the West Coast, so he'll calm down. But Rutgers able to bounce back because they were in danger of going down a hole that they can't recover from, mainly because of not having Dylan Harper for a few games. But getting back was huge for them last night, getting that win.
Well, I'm not ready to, I know that opens the door for them, but with the way UCLA had been going, I think winning that game sort of qualifies as a bare minimum kind of achievement. UCLA has been really struggling of late, and you add in the road trip to Maryland and Rutgers, and I think that last night was a fairly predictable outcome. I don't gamble on games, but that would have been one. I don't know what the line was going in, but that would have been one where I felt fairly comfortable that Rutgers was going to win the game. And so at this point, I think Rutgers has a lot more to worry about than one game. And although I think Dylan Harper's absence affected them, I don't think they were going to beat Indiana, Wisconsin, or Purdue in those games anyway. They've got issues, and they now have to go on the road to Nebraska and Penn State, and then bring Michigan State into home. I'm not sure they're not looking at a 3-game losing streak. I'm not super enthusiastic about what I see from Rutgers. I think Harper is a terrific player, an absolutely wonderful player. I think Ace Bailey is a fine prospect, but I don't think that he's a consistent college player at this point. And they're not getting the kind of consistency they need out of the rest of their guys. And they are not the Rutgers that we've known since Steve Pikiell was hired. The Rutgers that we knew under Steve Pikiell, his first however many years, would not let you do what you want to do on a basketball floor. You could beat them, but you had to do things that you don't usually do. Not things you're not capable of, but you'd have to go different. You have to take a different course to beat Rutgers back in those days, but you don't now. You just kind of have to control the 2 super talents. Don't allow them to go completely off, and then execute on offense and complete plays. And if you do that, you're going to defeat them.
Absolutely. The Big Ten, as we knew it would be, is going to be a tough road to hoe. There are 5 teams that have kind of, in my opinion, separated themselves at the top. Of course, Michigan State and Michigan, both 5-0 up there. But Purdue, they're doing a great job of staying right in that fight at 5-1. Oregon and Illinois, even though they're at 4-2 and tied with Indiana, I see there's a line separation of there. Illinois has to get back on track, and tonight is a perfect example of that. Indiana and Illinois, two teams that desperately need to get back on the winning side. And it's going to, for Indiana, it's been an enigma. They have just kind of disappeared. Some of the players have disappeared. Mackenzie Mbako has averaged 15 minutes in the last two games, scoring in single digits. In the last game, Indiana had three starters, Mike, combined for 9 points at Iowa. Three starters combining for 9 points, and the only two that you managed to get in double figures are at 12 and 13 points. So that's not going to win a lot of ball games, turning the ball over 12 times in the first half. But the good thing is there are a lot of games left, and they can rectify this, but it's not going to be how they have been playing.
It's actually what struck me was I thought they came into that Iowa game with a reasonable degree of momentum. They had played well, and
yes,
they played well at Penn State against a team that had been trending really positively. It looked to me that the Iowa game, for a road game, for a Big Ten road game, Iowa seemed pretty inviting at that stage. You go out, you score your 80, they score their 80, and then you figure out who's going to execute in the end. And I was astonished, really, that Indiana was so dysfunctional so quickly in that game, in terms of their not as an operation, but just as a basketball team on the floor against that particular opponent. There are teams in this league that lock you up, mess you up at their best. I mean, UCLA, when it's been at its best, could really mess up an offense. For instance, I think Michigan State does a really nice job at that. But Iowa's never been that team. They've been a proficient team under Fran McCaffrey on many occasions. Won the tournament, the league tournament a few years ago. Been in the NCAA's a bunch. Produced a Player of the Year in Luka Garza. But it's always been an offensive first outfit. They're going to be, right now, I think Ken Pom has them around 1 or 2 offensive efficiency. And then defensive, they're never really as high. So to go down there and not be able to run any offense at all, that's just, I don't get that. But at the same time, they're playing a team that didn't really endeavor to run any offense against Southern California on Saturday. We had that game on Big Ten Network. And going into the game, I was very effusive in my praise of Kylan Boswell and the effort he made in their game against Penn State with Yakachonis out of the lineup with an injury. And he had been such a good ball distributor in that game against Penn State. They scored 90 points. He had I think he had 6 assists in that game, and then he had like 3 or 4 more hockey assists where he just made an initiated the offense with a pass. It was beautiful. And then another pass, completed the play. And then he comes out against Southern Cal and he shot 5 first half 3-pointers, making none, Jim. And none of them was oh my gosh, the clock's going down, I got to take this. It was all, I'm open. I haven't made a pass yet. Okay, let's shoot it. That's like, what was that? So you've got 2 teams right now that had been playing very well up until Saturday and then went completely off track in those 2 games. And so fascinating to see whether either or both of them get back to being their best selves.
Yeah, and Indiana has to get there quickly. Someone asked a second ago, and I lost it, but is the loser of this game out of the Big Ten race? Well, Illinois might be, but Indiana, I'm sorry, but they don't have a snowball's chance in hell in winning the Big Ten championship. I mean, they're not going to overcome Michigan State, Illinois, and Oregon and all these other teams. They're just not going to do that from what I've seen against lesser competition so far. Now, can that change? Sure, absolutely. But until that does change, my opinion doesn't change. which in my opinion doesn't mean jack. I'll give you that. But it's with the talent they have, they're still searching. I don't like to call players out, but you know what? They're getting paid to be. So I'm going to talk about it. I have to talk about the situation. Mackenzie Mbako has disappeared, and it's not that so much as he seems to pout when his first shots don't go down. He climbs into a shell and just kind of disappears. That's what's happened the last 2 games. The game before last, he was sitting over there with a towel on his head. Mike Woodson sits him on the bench, and I get it. A lot of times the bench is a way to get someone's attention. I don't know that that's working here. I think he was enjoying this not being in and not having to deal with it. But Indiana can't win without their quote-unquote stars being stars. And that is not the case. They haven't had a star so far. They've had good players. Ballow's a good player, but they don't have a superstar, and that is leading them kind of game in, game out.
Well, I think I thought that the game prior to the Iowa game for Mackenzie could be an aberration. He played really poorly. They left him out for a lot of it. And I thought, okay, that can be an aberration. Everybody has bad games. It's how you respond to that bad game. And I look at, he made like early in the Iowa game, he hit about a 14-foot pull-up jumper. And it was like, okay, all right, you can be back now. And then it didn't, and then nothing happened from there. Nothing positive happened from there. Again, I'm not running down Iowa's defense. They have a particular approach. It's worked for them, but defensively, they are not extraordinary. Can they do their best? I
didn't realize they played any defense, Mike. I thought they just said, if you can score, great, but we're going to outscore you.
Yeah, that's been basic Iowa basketball for a while. I mean, but they're going to come up with a decent stop now and then because you can't win without getting any stops. But Indiana operated as if they were being wrecked, as if they were as if the defense was impossible to go against. And I don't think I've ever seen that against an Iowa team before. Not that I can remember. I'm sure it's happened, but I don't remember seeing a team that just couldn't function offensively in a game against Iowa. Beaten, yeah. I mean, because again, you got to stop Iowa, and it's really hard. They're right now at this point. They are the number 19 offense in college basketball in terms of efficiency. And there are lots of metrics in which they are among the absolute best. They can put 2 guys out on the floor that can score 30 points. There are very few teams in college basketball that have that. And it's not out of the question for those 2 to both score 30 at the same time. That's how good they are. So I'm not surprised that Indiana struggled to stop Iowa. I still don't understand how Indiana had so much difficulty operating an offense against Iowa. But if one of your key components is disengaging because his offense is struggling, I mean, that's not how you win basketball games, Jim. Your job when your shot's not going down is to find other ways to score. Your job when your shot's not going down is to make sure that you remain relevant to your team by getting down on the floor for loose balls, getting to passing lanes, locking down on defense, all of that. That's your job as a player if you want to be on the floor. If your shot's not dropping, look, Steph Curry, I say it all the time, Jim. I've said it on this show almost every week. Steph Curry doesn't have a good night every night. He's the best shooter in the history of the game, and he doesn't make every shot. It's just, you're no one's going to make every shot.
No, of course not. Absolutely. Guys go through slumps, just whatever the case is, and you have to keep shooting. But because if you look at Indiana's stat line, Mackenzie Mbako is still their best, actually second best 3-point shooter now at 37.8%. But that's on, 77 or 74 attempts. The only other person that's put up 70, 75 by Luke Goody. and he is shooting 37.3. So they're both about the same now. I wonder if Malik Renew was back, would Luke Goody be in the starting lineup instead of Malik Renew with the way he's been playing? I'm going to guess he would. Mike, I said that I think that if Malik Renew was back, I think that Luke Goody may enter the starting lineup over Mackenzie Mbako right now just because of how he's playing. Now, I don't know what that would do to him because, the bench it's been weird to watch this team. Miles Rice has been pretty solid. He's grown into his role. He seems to kind of embrace it now. Trey Galloway had been really helpful, but he disappeared the other night. 0 points, nothing going. It was just amazing how so many can do so little in a game, especially when you need it.
Right. So I think the Illinois game is interesting. I don't know what Yakachonis's situation will be, but I think
thank you for saying that. Say it one more time for me.
Yakachonis.
They got a few. Write that one down.
Yeah, they got a few on that Illinois team, and they're very good. So you can't ever just ignore them. But Yakachonis,
is he the dude from Lithuania, the shooting guard?
He's a point guard.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's an excellent point guard. Great at ball screens, big for his position, can take over a game. He's a very capable player. And I think that him being back for Illinois is going to be important if he can get back. They said on Saturday, Brad said that he was a game time decision. So I don't know whether his status has changed for tonight or not. But if he's not out there, Illinois is going to have to go back to actually working their offense, which they did not do at all against SC. They did not work their offense. And then defensively, they got bullied by Desmond Claude, the SC's point guard who transferred in from Xavier, a big 6'7" guy who can really, he's physical and can back you down, or he can go by you because he went by Illinois a lot. So we'll see what kind of shape Illinois is in as well going into tonight.
Yeah, Kasparis Yakachonis. Woo, yes, for me, baby.
Excellent.
True freshman from Lithuania, but he's their leading scorer, 16.4 points per game. More importantly, he's shooting 50% from the floor and 41% from deep, averaging 5.5 rebounds and 5.5 assists. This guy's a one-man wrecking machine, and no wonder they've missed him in these last 2 games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they didn't miss him in the first of those. They scored 90 points against Penn State. But they missed him Saturday. And again, I thought they missed him largely because they took the game for granted. They did. I mean, SC had not played well. It was a home game.
They were coming off of a loss at Indiana, no less.
Yes. But they clearly did not take that game. They did not put everything into that game. I'm sure it was frustrating for Brad because you could see it as I mentioned in Boswell, a player who had played so well in that Penn State game and then comes out and shoots 5 first-half threes off of no passes or one. You're not, unless you're now Steph Curry could do that and everybody say, okay, that's Steph. But Kylan Boswell is around a 29% 3-point shooter. So you're for your point guard to be shooting that many open, they were open, but they were open for a reason because nobody was worried about him. The number said, don't worry about him. And he lived up to that or down to that. And it helped bury Illinois in the end.
Yeah, Indiana's defense, we've talked a lot about the offense and various things, but their defense has also been lacking as far as 3-point defense. Of course, that's something that has been nagging them for a few years, but they have got to become a little more ferocious and start shutting people down or individuals down. They've not been able to do that, and this will be Yakachonis will be a tremendous test for them if he plays. But how effective, if he does, will he? He's not going to be 100%, I would imagine. But he's not the only guy they have. They also have Tomislav Ivisic. He's their second leading scorer. They like the foreign guys, but this is a 7-foot guy, man. He's 7'1", and he not only shooting 35%, 35.8% from 3-point range on 4.2 attempts per game. So he's not putting up one every couple of games. This guy's he's a shooter, man. That is going to be a problem for Indiana.
Yeah, he's an excellent shooter and passer. Does a really nice job in ball screens of picking and popping and moving the basketball on. He's really good at that. So it'll be interesting to see how the Hoosiers decide to guard him. But Saturday, he got physical. I know that's not a verb, and I just made it one. But he got physicaled out of the game. He was basically shoved onto the sideline. And so, legally, he was not effective at all. So it would have to be although he may struggle, Umar may struggle a little bit to defend the ball screens. He's got to exert his physicality against what Ivisic brings, because we saw it happen by a smaller but very tough team in SC on Saturday.
Absolutely. How important is this win for each team? Illinois, obviously, if they want to remain in the hunt for the Big Ten title, they have to win this game. Not that the Big Ten champion is going to have 0 or 2 losses. Those losses are going to happen a little bit, but they're already at 2. They cannot pick up a third loss against a team like Indiana because they have tough games coming up too. And I don't mean that as anything other than what it is. It's Indiana. They need to win it just to stay alive. They need to win it to get a quality win. Their best win on the entire season right now, Mike, is over Penn State. The 13 wins yesterday, I ran the numbers. Their 13 wins, the average net ranking of those 13 opponents, 145. That's not going to win you a lot of trophies.
Did you do the math on that, by the way?
I did the math on that. I crossed the I's and counted and used my fingers and my toes and everything, man.
Did you know that you can go to warrennolan.com and it does the math on that for you? Did you know that?
Well, I was just sitting here looking at different things, and since it was only 13, I'm like, all right, let me quickly add that up. And plus, my brain needs the activity, Mike. You
it does help to keep you sharp. But Warren Nolan, a site, I don't know Warren, but he has been my Bible for the 6 years that I've been doing the NCAA tournament brackets for Fox. His site is just absolutely, it's the most underrated site in college basketball because it tells you everything that the committee knows. And while everybody is yelling at me every Tuesday and Friday, how can you seed my team there when their net ranking is so much higher? I'm telling them, look at warrennolan.com and look at your team's team sheet, and it'll tell you why you are where you are. I mean, it's really helpful in that sense. So if you're a Hoosier and you're worried about your team's net ranking, it's not. Look, it's better to have a good one than a poor one. Don't get me wrong. But it's not what decides whether you get in the field or not. We have seen teams get into the field at 70 because they had good quad 1 and 2 records, because they had fairly light quad 4 participation, because they had the most underrated part of this whole process.
Indiana has none of that right now.
Well, I'm not arguing with you there. Results metrics. People
I'll tell you another one.
Attention to them.
Evan Miyakawa, who was with us today. That's a great site for you to go visit.
Yes,
as well.
It absolutely is. It's funny. Indiana does have good results metrics. They do. It's crazy based on what they've, on what you see but they do have good results metrics. They could be in the field if you were seeding strictly by results metrics. They could be in the field.
Mike, what's up next for you, buddy?
Well, I have a couple of projects coming this week, including one about the intersection between the Steelers' 70s legacy and the 2020 Chiefs' future. How they could be connected if the Chiefs are able to go on and win the Super Bowl.
Make sure you look for that. And at the Sporting News, make sure you're giving Mike DeCourcy a follow and keeping up with all his content. And K-Bro, who's jumping in on the comments today, Kevin Brockway. We've got lots more coming up. Mike, thank you, sir, so much. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim.
We'll be back with more here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios when we return from this break. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bite, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Joined now by Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. And Big Ten basketball is, man, first of all, how about the SEC? They are a stinking juggernaut. Talked about this yesterday. I'll talk about it more with Evan Miyakawa next. But they've got, and the thing is, Travis, they've got teams that are Mississippi State. Who saw that coming? Ole Miss, of course, you've got Chris Beard there who had made a good turnaround. Now Georgia hasn't been ranked in 14 years. And now all of a sudden the SEC in basketball has become what they had been in football. But man, they're seriously, they're deep. The Big Ten is deep, but they just don't have the elite caliber teams at the top, I think, that the SEC does right now.
Yeah, that conference is playing some really good basketball right now. I too was surprised to learn that Georgia actually has a program for basketball. But excuse me. But yeah, I mean, Purdue is one of those teams that's kind of uniquely qualified to talk about them because we ended up playing 4 SEC teams in the non-conference. Purdue has wins over Alabama and Mississippi. They have a 4-point loss to Texas A&M here in Indianapolis. Obviously, Texas A&M, a really good team. And
that's a great resume because Ole Miss is ranked right now.
And Purdue's got a win over Alabama, and they have the loss to Auburn, which there's no shame in losing to this Auburn team. When they're at full strength, they are incredible. So I'm kind of surprised to see it, at least in terms of just the number of teams that are in the top 10. I think they have what, like 5 of the top 10 right now, 6 of the top 11 or something.
I think
weird.
It's 6. It's crazy. They are, yeah, it's nuts. On the Big Ten side, I mentioned earlier, Purdue has done a hell of a job staying in the fight for the title, and they are right in the mix. There are, in my opinion, 5 teams that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Oregon and Illinois need to get back on to the same side that they were on. Illinois loses at home to USC, and that was a big upset after USC lost to Indiana. And then Oregon has been beaten at home a couple of times soundly by Michigan. So they're on their way. They lose another game, and they're going to get pushed down. But Michigan has to be the surprise of the season. Dusty May, I mean, it's not a gigantic surprise, but being in first, that's not what anyone expected. And he's doing a hell of a job up there. No surprise to most people.
Yeah, that's a really good team. They're playing really, really well. And Michigan is one of those teams that with Purdue, because of the paucity of teams that you play twice, Purdue and Michigan do play twice this year. So both of those games are going to be really big in the Big Ten standings.
Absolutely.
Purdue obviously plays Indiana twice, and Indiana is, hanging around there. The loss to Iowa was not great.
They're not in. They're not in that group of 5.
The one that is surprising me a little bit as to just how inconsistent they are is Oregon. They've played really well. They have a couple of good non-conference wins. Got blown out at home by Illinois. And then Illinois goes back home and loses by 10 to USC. I mean,
well, they did not have their best player and leading scorer in that game. So even though they had kicked their snot out of, who was it, Penn State just before that without him as well. But and
then Penn State, they're so up and down. Nearly got a win over Oregon, lost at home to Indiana, but they took Purdue behind the shed. I mean, Purdue had 24 turnovers in that loss at Penn State. And that just shows what you need to do to beat Purdue. You got to turn them over. If Purdue's not turning the ball over, we saw when that offense can get really clicking like it did on Sunday against Nebraska. That was just a tremendous performance. And Braden Smith right now, if a guy's dropping 14 assists in a Big Ten game, what do you do? What do you do?
He's playing. He's playing very well right now. Games coming up tonight in the Big Ten. Iowa is at USC. That's going to be interesting because USC coming off of a win. Have they found a little something? Because they have not been good. They're one of the worst teams in the conference. They're a team that I don't expect to make the Big Ten tournament. Ohio State travels to Wisconsin. That's kind of an evenly matched game. It'd be interesting to see that. And of course, Illinois is at Indiana. Both teams are coming off of losses. Bad losses. Well, Indiana's was a bad loss. Illinois lost at home to USC, which makes that a bad loss. But they both have to get back on the winning track. And this could be the first nail in the coffin to me for Indiana. We'll see. Their schedule is rough coming up. But Penn State goes to Michigan State tomorrow. Michigan State playing well. They're undefeated in the conference play. Purdue has a bye. They play at Washington, and you didn't catch that, did you?
Well, you can never take any road game for granted in this conference.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
true,
and
but
especially-
Washington is really bad. Is Washington the worst team in? No, Washington or Minnesota are vying for the worst team in the conference so far.
And I think that's kind of what stood out to me for Purdue is this 4-game win streak is they've played teams that are probably not making the NCAA tournament. Yeah, Nebraska's probably a fringe case, but Northwestern, Rutgers, and Nebraska's a fringe case, like I said, but they've also had Northwestern, Rutgers, and Minnesota. But Purdue has actually just been very businesslike. They've taken care of business. They've won all 4 games by at least 18 points, and it really has not been close in the final minutes of any of those games. Rutgers pushed them for a little while, but that was mostly because Purdue shot so poorly. If Purdue was hitting their threes in that game, they win by 30. So I think that's what stood out to me for Purdue is not so much that they've won 4 in a row, but they've been so dominant in doing so. And if they can keep that up against Washington tomorrow night, that sets things up for kind of a game that I think will decide if they stay in the race or not at Oregon on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And the Big Ten is just what we thought it was going to be. When you look at the standings right now, like I said, you've got 5 teams that are grouped right there, but no one is real, and it's early yet. We've only played 25% of the schedule. That's crazy to think about. As deep as we are into the season, only a quarter into the schedule with 5 games gone out of a 20-game schedule. And there's going to be more losses like the USC and Illinois. They're just going to not happen a lot, but they're going to jump up. Who avoids that? That is who is going to win the Big Ten. Whatever team is able to avoid that massive letdown and shocker loss either at home or on the road. Not many losses on the road are shockers, but and right now, probably Michigan State, and Purdue are kind of separated themselves even from the other 2. We'll see going forward. It's going to be interesting. Who does Purdue play after? Oh, Purdue goes to Oregon this week as well, or on Saturday. So that'll be a good game to look forward to. And then Indiana, of course, they're off for like a week. They have back-to-back road. The funny thing is the easiest part of Indiana's schedule is coming up. And by easiest, it includes back-to-back road games. It includes a game against number 19 Illinois and then home against maybe Ohio State, I think. I can't remember. But then it gets real for Indiana because 5 out of their next 6 games are all against ranked teams. And the other game that's not ranked is at Wisconsin, where they haven't won since the Civil War. So Indiana's got to get it turned around. Purdue in great shape right now. And what is going to be the difference for them to overcome Michigan and Michigan State, because they're both playing extraordinarily well. Michigan with those 2 bigs, they're a problem. You've got a 7'1" guy that is shooting, 38-9% from behind the deep stripe.
Yeah, that's when Michigan has given Purdue the most trouble with a Hunter Dickinson, with a Mo Wagner, the guys that can step out and hit those threes that because there's nobody that can guard them out there. But I would be interested to see how Caleb First matches up against them. Yeah, he's giving up a little bit of height, but his perimeter defense has really improved, and he has allowed Purdue to spread the floor on both ends. And just kind of the energy that he has brought, the ability to rebound, the ability to defend. He's not scoring a ton, but he's giving 5, 6, 7 points a game, maybe a putback layup here, maybe a dunk there. And I think he's been kind of the key for Purdue. But like I said earlier, the overall key for Purdue is take care of the basketball. In at least 3 of their losses so far this season, turnovers have been a major issue. Marquette and Penn State turned them over. They had some problems against Texas A&M, and then Auburn, being Auburn, just defended the perimeter extremely well. So as long as Purdue doesn't turn the ball over and they hold serve at home in Mackey Arena where they're just not supposed to lose, then they're going to be in it throughout. And they have to go to Michigan. They have to go to Michigan State. Those are going to be two really challenging games, but I think Purdue matches up a little bit better with Michigan State than they do with Michigan.
Absolutely. Tonight, Indiana plays Illinois, and Illinois had been without their leading scorer. I wrote his name down. Yakachonis, Kasparas Yakachonis, from dudes from Lithuania. When you think of Lithuanian, those players, this is exactly what they've got. This guy is he's a true freshman, but man, this dude is probably going to be. I don't know if he's a one and done or not, but he is playing pretty well for a true freshman, man. This guy was in the equivalent of high school last season.
Yeah, and see a guy come in and do that in the Big Ten is just really impressive. I mean, look at what Rutgers. They've got two guys that are allegedly lottery picks, and they're at 500, and they're getting kind of inconsistent performances from them. I do know that they beat UCLA last night, which talk about a team that is falling apart at the seams.
Oh man, Nick Cronin he's losing it too. He got thrown out of the game. He's complaining about the calls. He was complaining about the travel. And it's like, dude, you guys knew what you were getting into. And he kind of says that, but they're going to play 7 straight West Coast games. So, but they were on a plane for over 5 hours. I mean, I don't know. As long as you're not doing that every weekend.
That's another factor that I think is really going to come into play for the West Coast teams, especially since they have to come east so often. Purdue has to go west once. They're in Washington tomorrow night, and then they get to stay on the West Coast and be acclimated to the time change, and they'll be ready for a noon game at Oregon on Saturday. But asking UCLA to come east and play in Piscataway, New Jersey at 6:00 at night on a Monday. I mean, this is just showcasing the absolute absurdity of all this.
Absolutely. Well, man, we look forward to it. Looking forward to the Big Ten as it gets into Big Ten play right now, man. And it's going to be a fun season to play out. It's Michigan State, Purdue in the mix. Illinois, can they get back on that side? Indiana has got to keep their tournament hopes alive. Northwestern has been a little disappointing. Rutgers is maybe the most disappointing team in the conference right now. I think.
To me, there's no excuse to have a 500 record.
Well, let me rephrase that. Well, Rutgers is at the moment because their record is what it is, and it's not great. They're like 8-8, 1-4 in the conference. Indiana is 13-3, but I've mentioned those 13 wins have come over teams with a net ranking average of 142, I think. So they've got to get that up. That's not going to fly. Penn State has fallen off of the deal. UCLA has fallen off. Oregon is on the verge of being knocked off. So Maryland has not been as tough as I thought that they were going to be. Ohio State has not been as good as I thought that they were going to be. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see at the end of the season what the Big Ten does against the rest of the country.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's projections of 9-10 teams getting into the tournament. I can't even fathom how you can figure that out. I mean, so much is going to be based on who beat who in the non-conference, really, because you only get one shot at so many of the Big Ten teams. So it'll be interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. I'd love to see Purdue get a top 4 seed, and if they can slide into the Midwest region and get to play the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 here in Indianapolis, that would be very interesting. I don't say they're going to go back to the Final Four. I think I would be stunned if they did, but they're coming together right now. You get them into a Sweet 16 game here in Indianapolis, it's going to be very, very interesting with the crowd behind them there too.
Absolutely. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. You can find him at Boiler Upload, covering the Boilers for any Purdue fans out there, or if you're always just curious what's going on the other side. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Hey, we've got to take a break. When we come back, Evan Miyakawa joins the program. He is the stats doctor. He is a legit doctor with a PhD, and he is a data scientist that loves college basketball. More from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios when we return. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and special guest today, Evan Miyakawa. Is that how you say your name correct? First of all,
Yes.
I want to make sure because it looks pretty simple, but sometimes they're tricky. But Evan Miyakawa, who I have nicknamed the stats doctor of college basketball because he is a doctor. He's got a PhD in stats, people. He's a data scientist. You've seen him everywhere, ESPN, CBS, The Athletic, all over, Rivals, everywhere. And we're fortunate to have him on Indiana Sports Beat Radio today. Evan, thank you, first of all, for taking time to be with us today, man.
Glad to be here, Jim. Lots of interesting things to discuss in college basketball and the Big Ten with Indiana specifically. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too. But first, I want to talk about the SEC. My God, every time you turn around, not only it's already known that they're the strongest basketball conference in the country this year, which is crazy, but they keep adding teams that are not that are not the teams that you would expect. Mississippi State was already kind of up there, but that's a surprise. Of course, Chris Beard at Ole Miss, he's got them ranked. And now Georgia is jumping into the party. Haven't been ranked in 14 years, man. The SEC has just become a juggernaut in basketball.
Yeah, the SEC is arguably right now the greatest college basketball conference that we've ever seen. Obviously, we have to wait and see how the rest of the season shapes up, and ultimately, a lot of that's dictated by how many teams you get in the tournament. But this team, this conference, we knew coming into the year that this was going to be a deep conference, but we didn't know that this would also be the most elite conference at the top. If you look right now at my team ratings at evanmia.com, the SEC has 5 of the top 11 teams in the country. You have Auburn at 2, Alabama at 5, Florida 6, Tennessee 9, Mississippi State 11. But then really there's not like a drop off anywhere else. Your worst 2 teams are LSU and South Carolina, but they're still kind of inside the top 90 or so. And all the rest of the teams are basically perennial top 50 teams, all good enough to make the tournament if they play well over the next month or two. It's pretty outrageous what we're seeing from the SEC.
The SEC tournament is going to be a blast for people to get to cover that. That's going to be something. I talked about the Big Ten being a meat grinder this year. It's nothing compared to that thing, man. That's a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, the Big Ten is like still in terms of depth just as good as the SEC, but they don't have any of those elite teams. The best team in the Big Ten probably would shape up to be the 5th or 6th best team in the SEC. So that's really where the difference is between those two conferences.
Are we talking about football or basketball?
You might be confused.
It's crazy. It is. The Big Ten is deep. There's no question about that. And that is possibly going to be a problem for a team like Indiana, who I was looking over a bunch of numbers today, and of their 13 wins, they have the team's average. All 13 of those wins come out to be a nice crisp average of 145 in the net rankings, which is not good. It stinks, as Chevy Chase said in Caddyshack. But they've and not only that, they have no margin for error. You've got number 19 Illinois come in tomorrow night after getting whipped at Iowa over the weekend, and this is the easy part of their schedule. Evan, they get through they've got back-to-back road games. Then I forget who comes in, but then you have a stretch of 5 out of 6 games against ranked teams, and the one that's not ranked is at Wisconsin, where Indiana hasn't won since Moby Dick was a minnow, man. So it does not get easier for the Hoosiers.
No, and like you pointed out, they don't really have any big wins yet. If you want to talk about something that you can rely on with this Indiana team, it's that they've beaten most, if not all, the teams that are ranked worse than them, and they've lost to all the teams that are ranked better than them. Their best win, I think, is away at Penn State, who I have ranked 62nd in the country. But then the top 4 teams they've played are Iowa, Nebraska, Gonzaga, and Louisville, all about top 50 or better. And those are the games they've lost. So you need to start winning some of those games above kind of where you're punching right now in order to really, turn the script in the next month or so.
And even the Rutgers win, which looked like a nice win at the time, even though they were without Dylan Harper. Boy, Rutgers is really kind of they're getting hit by those injuries. So it's not turning out to be such a great win after all.
Yeah, I actually, on Rutgers specifically, my model had Rutgers about the 70th best team in the preseason. So basically kind of what my data was showing, which everyone has kind of figured out now, is that their best 2 players are those freshmen, and they're amazing, but they don't really have anything dependable outside of those 2 guys, and it's really showing. And when you start getting injuries as well, and you start losing some of those healthy minutes from your 2-star freshmen, it's looking pretty unlikely at this point that Rutgers has a chance of making the tournament, unfortunately.
Which is pretty surprising because they're very talented. Mike DeCourcy calls them the most talented team in the Big Ten. But I think he means by the young talent, which they just haven't been able to run with that together here of late. Your site, evanmia.com, don't forget you can go there and all kinds of analytical information there. But what do you focus? Do you focus on any particular things? I know that the particular rotations and lineups are something that you really have kind of honed in on. That's one of the things, which it's very, very cool to look at those things, man.
Yeah, if you compare what I'm doing to, some other popular sites, the main one being KenPom, obviously, a lot of what I really dive into is player evaluation. So looking at these advanced metrics that quantify how valuable is each player to their team on offense and defense. And then you can sort of extend that a lot to lineup stuff. So looking at what are the best lineups or the best predicted lineups that a team has based not only on how good those groups of players have played together, but also the individual skills present in each lineup. And you can even divide it into like how good are pairs of teammates or trios or four-man units playing together. And so that's really a lot of the bread and butter that I'm looking at during the season.
Yeah, and I'm looking over some of those top projected three-point shooters. Goes to Kobe Brea at Kentucky, one of those teams that has a new coach, but they are not missing a beat. They are rolling, but it's because of having players like that. That's a problem for Indiana. They don't have anybody that is sticking out, and I mean in almost any way. The scoring is very mediocre. The individual scoring is mediocre. They don't have a star on the team. They have some guys that were supposed to be stars, but they're not showing up. I don't like to call guys out, particularly. That's not what I'm trying to do. But, hey, these guys are getting paid now, so it's okay to point out certain things like numbers. Mackenzie Mbako is where I'd start first. He has just disappeared for this team right now, and they need him as badly as anybody.
Yeah, if we look at this Indiana team coming into the season, I think what everyone was excited about was, wow, look at all these individual talented players that this team has. Oumar Ballo was one of the most highly regarded transfers in the entire country. You have a guy like Miles Rice coming from Washington State who had an incredible year last year and looked like a perfect candidate to have a big step up to the Big Ten. And even guys like Mbako, you started the year really hot, and you're kind of thinking, man, if he can start performing on a regular basis like this as a potential even second team all Big Ten type player, this team is going to be pretty unstoppable. And what you've really seen is that none of these players have really exactly reached the level that you've wanted from them, and you've had some major disappointments as well. Looking at the advanced player, analytics that I have, Oumar Ballo still comfortably rates as the best player on this team and the most important player to Indiana's success. But, outside of that, you can't really point to another player who has been dramatically above what we expected, especially for some of those transfers, as well as some of those guys that you were hoping would take an extra step this year compared to last year.
Yeah, and of course, the injury to Malik Reneau plays a big part in this, because it plays a big part in how Mike Woodson runs his offense, which most of the time involves both of those guys being on the floor at the same time, which I am not in agreement of, because Malik Reneau is not a four. And it's like, okay, what's he playing when he's in there with Ballo? Because he's not a four. And so therefore you don't have a four on the floor.
Yeah, so here's kind of my take, and this is, again, a lot based on the data that I have. This conversation about Ballo and Reneau together has been a hot topic since basically the beginning of the season for Indiana, because it just hasn't worked out in the way that you would hope. And based on the data that I have and kind of predicting player value going forward, I mentioned this already, but Ballo rates as the best player in the team, and Reneau still on a predictive basis rates as the second best player in this team. So those two guys are your two best players. And so how do you figure out how to structure the rest of your rotations around those guys to bring the best out in them? And so when I've been kind of looking at the data here, ultimately Indiana fans have not been pleased with the results that we've seen with both those guys on the floor. But really, when I look at how those two together have played, and I compare that to all other sort of pairs of players that Indiana has had, and just looking at how good does the team play when they're on the court, it's actually kind of fairly middle of the pack for kind of all lineup combinations that we see. And I think really a lot of what it comes down to ultimately is more about getting the best out of other sort of, either fringe or, semi-rotation guys that you have on the team. Because the reality is, like, for example, because of the Reneau injury recently, they've been sort of forced to try stuff outside of that. And you've gotten really good play out of like Luke Goody playing with Ballo. That's been an amazing combination. But when you look at Indiana's best and worst teammate duos, the duo of like Goody and Renew has been horrible. And so there's players like that where Goody and Balo is awesome, Goody and Renew is horrible. You can't obviously play all three together. And so there's just a lot of different tensions with this team. And it's more difficult than just saying, let's put our best 5 players on the court, because obviously there's a lot of nuance and you're trying to figure out the right combinations. And I think that's probably more challenging for this Indiana team than for most teams kind of, who are in the Big Ten.
Does the data, it gives you a lot, but there are some things that it doesn't give you that you have to flesh out. Does it give or offer some explanation on why a particular lineup or rotation does or does not work?
So one of the things I do at evanmiyakawa.com is you can look at stats on like how good a lineup has played together. And that's fairly substantial and important, especially for some of your most used lineups. But one of the issues that we run into with lineup data, specifically looking at 5-man lineups, is that outside of your top 3 to 5 most used lineups, the sample size that you're going to get is so small that it's pretty tough to draw reasonable conclusions from that data, because, like your 4th or 5th best lineup might have only played maybe even 25 minutes together in the total of a season, which is not a lot, right? And so one of the things that I do is I not only look at how good the lineup has performed so far, but I actually predict how good it's going to be going forward based on not just how it's performed, but also the individual player skills present in that lineup. And so one of the things that you can do on my site is actually like rank all of the team's lineups based on their predicted performance going forward. And so one of the things that's interesting about looking at that is, number one, there have been some lineups with Balo and Renew that have been pretty bad, but there's one lineup in particular that's actually been pretty good, and that's the lineup of the top 5 guys that I rate on the team, which is Balo, Renew. It's Balo, Renew, Mbako, Rice, and Galloway. Those are the top 5 players individually, and that lineup also has been pretty solid. And that is comfortably the best lineup in terms of predicted performance going forward for Indiana. But then another lineup that has shown up really high towards the top of that list is the starting lineup that Indiana is using right now with Renew out. And that's, with Goody in there. And that also has been a pleasant surprise. So trying to kind of fit all of these pieces in there is, I think, really important. And unfortunately, one of the things that you're having to deal with as well is that a guy like Kanan Carlisle has been a major disappointment for this season. His minutes have not been reliable whatsoever. I did not rate him super highly as a transfer coming into this year. I think he's been even worse than what I predicted. And so you would have really hoped that he would be kind of a safe pick in your top 6 or 7 guys. But based on the data so far, I think Carlisle actually ranks worse on the team in terms of how good the team has played with him on the court. So that's pretty concerning.
Well, that makes sense, because if you go back and look at his shooting is not good. He is not shooting the ball well at all. But a part of that is, and I have noticed this the last couple of games, his shot selection choices, decision-making is bad. I saw him take 2 3-point shots in the game the other night where Indiana played at home. I'm forgetting who the hell it was now. But he comes down and takes a 3-point shot right into the shot clock. He hit it, but it didn't matter. That's a bad shot. And then it wasn't that long later, he tries that again. And of course it doesn't work, but it's in the top of the shot clock. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? So it's a lot of bad decision-making that is going on as well. So, and this team doesn't look like you just said, you've got 2 completely different top lineups that are nothing like each other. Because if you take Malik Renew out and have Goody in, that's a completely different style of play, and vice versa. So normally that would be a good thing, you would think, because it gives the defenses 2 different things they have to focus on, but it's not working out that way, it seems.
Yeah. And ultimately, if this team is going to play well enough down the stretch to make the tournament and win a game or 2 at least in the tournament, kind of what you were hoping for, a Sweet 16 run potentially before the season started, you kind of need all these pieces to work. Like, you can't totally phase out Renew because he's one of your best players, but you also can't totally just rely on the 2 big thing like you hoped for, because it's not been as good as you're hoping. So you kind of need to get all of this stuff working, which I think is one of the big problems, because there's kind of so many different holes and problems that they're trying to fix all at the same time.
And I wonder if, like when it was Renew in there and Goody was coming off the bench, he wasn't doing well. He wasn't shooting the ball that well, his three-point shooting. Then when he started getting more minutes, his shot started to flow. He seemed like he was in the flow a lot better. But now if you take him back out and you go back to the old school, I just don't know that this team can compete with these other Big Ten teams who are they're in sync. And we hear Mike Whitson a lot talking about, well, these guys are still getting to know each other. And well, it's a little late in the year for that.
Yeah, there are plenty of other teams that have clicked a lot quicker than this Indiana team. So, I mean, you just look down the road in Lexington, and that Kentucky team with an entirely new roster has clicked from day one, which you wouldn't have expected. And so, no, I don't think that's really a reasonable excuse, because in this day and age, if you're going to bring in lots of new talent, you kind of have to figure out how to get it working pretty quick, because there's a lot of other teams that are doing the same thing, and some of them are being much more successful at it than Indiana has been.
Well, let's take a quick break. Evan Miyakawa is with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We'll be back with more right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Evan Miyakawa with us from evanmiya.com, talking some hard numbers for Indiana and the Big Ten. Evan Miyakawa joining us from evanmiya.com. He is the, I'm calling him the stats doctor because he is a doctor. He's got a PhD in stats, people.
passionate about is, combining the objective data with kind of expert basketball knowledge. And so that's why I love talking with someone like you, Jim, because, you're watching this team every single night with your own eyes and you've got your own conclusions. When you compare that with what I'm doing and kind of combine those two together, I think that's really where you see the best of both worlds come together. And so I think stuff like this is really fun. And there's always more ways for me that I find to be digging into the data to say, like, hey, does the data really bear out these kind of narratives that we're seeing? And a lot of times it does confirm it, and other times it leads in slightly different directions, which can sort of update the information that we have and ultimately make us smarter in the process.
And Indiana, of course, trying to make the NCAA tournament this year, and right now it's not looking good. They're 60th in the net rankings as they continue to hover down there. They've dropped a little bit, obviously, when you lose on the road by 25. Their 4 losses have come by an average of over 21 points. That's staggering. It's mind-boggling, first of all, and that you're not going to make the tournament like that either. And they have to win. They cannot lose games at home. They can't lose. I'm not going to call Illinois a must-win game, but if you lose that game, then you've got to go someplace on the road and make up for that, because a home game's not going to make up for that. You have to win all the home games. What is it going to take for this team to actually make the tournament? Because I think they're going to have to climb 15 spots in the net right now, at least.
Yeah, I agree. Right now, if you sort of look at their sort of bracket picture, they're pretty much firmly right on the cut line based on their resume. And obviously, if they continue playing as consistently as they have, it's going to be a tall task. So they definitely need to elevate their performance. Something that I look to as an interesting trend with this team that I think needs to change is one thing that I track on my website is a stat called a kill shot, which is any time that a team scores 10 or more points in a game unanswered. It's kind of a measure of how, are you able to go on these scoring runs and have that spurt ability? And one of the problems with Indiana is that they have allowed 8 kill shots this season. That's 8 separate 10-0 runs. And that is more than any other team in the Big Ten. That's almost about half a kill shot per game or so. And so basically what that points to is that this team is pretty susceptible at any time to just giving up a scoring run and kind of having the game either they're losing a lead or it's getting out of hand quickly. And that's something that you're going to need to stop and not allow for opponents to quickly flip the script, because otherwise you're just always going to be scared that no matter if the team is in the lead or in a tight contest, that it's going to flip really quickly. And so Indiana needs to kind of be more sharp in that department.
Yeah, I think we got a good dose of that when we watched them play Iowa over the weekend. They were just I don't even know how to explain it. It was crazy. You've got the turnovers that were nuts. Was it 12 first half turnovers? They were just not taking care of the ball. It didn't show up to play. It was there's a lot of times this team looks like it did not come to play a game of basketball, and that's that's on the players, it's on the coaches, it's on everybody. But the truth of the matter is what it is, and this team is not trending in the right direction right now. It doesn't seem to me, to my meager mathematical skills.
Yeah, maybe one point of encouragement for Indiana fans just looking at this team is one of the things that we often see with teams kind of during the season is that even if a team kind of underperforms kind of what their preseason expectation was, oftentimes by the time we get to March, and especially if a team can get in the tournament like Indiana, they're clearly going to be more talented than a lot of the other teams that would be seeded relative to them in that, right now they're kind of like on the 11 seed line. So let's say they end up, maybe a 9, 10, or 11 seed, right? They're going to be more talented than most of the other teams there. And often what we see is that teams kind of revert to preseason expectation based on their roster talent. And so if this team can manage to get into the tournament, I think they're going to be more well-suited to actually make a deeper run than some of those other similarly seeded teams, just because of the roster talent that they have. And especially if they end up making the tournament, it's obviously going to mean that they did some things well down the stretch. And so riding that momentum into the tournament, just get in. And I think this team could be more poised to make a run than some other teams that are kind of viewed similarly right now based on their resumes.
Yeah, they're going to have to do that now and not wait, because like I said, the easy part of their schedule is upon them, because it gets tough. It gets real and short therefore after that. And you've got a lot of teams. There are like 5 teams in the Big Ten that have kind of separated themselves. I mean, Purdue's one of those teams, obviously Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, and Oregon. I think those five have, even though that two of those teams are 4-2 with some other teams, including Indiana, there's a line there between them. And it'll be interesting to see who ends up pulling out the win in this conference. But Dusty May and Michigan are looking pretty damn good right now.
Yeah, I've got Michigan as the top team in the Big Ten, just slightly ahead of Michigan State. But, those four in particular, Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue, I have all top 16 nationally, and they're all just within a few spots of each other. So it's, pretty much anyone's game to win the Big Ten, but I am very impressed with Michigan. They're doing some really, really unique things. They play those 2 7-footers in Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf a lot together, and they're super, super good in that pick and roll with Danny kind of running the point and Vlad kind of rolling off of him. And there is no other team in the country that is playing 2 7-footers together anywhere near the amount that Michigan is, and Michigan's doing it to great effect. So I think they provide something very unique that no other team in the country is doing. And so if, Michigan kind of stays hot, I think they're going to be one of the most unique challenges for any team facing in the tournament, especially if they've not faced them during the season.
Now, Michigan with those two big guys, are one of those guys a shooter? Does any of them shoot it from outside?
Golden not really, but Wolf absolutely. Yeah, Wolf is a threat from 3, and that's part of why it works so well.
That's the difference maker right there.
Yes.
And that's what Indiana is not getting from Malik Renew. He's not a good 3-point shooter. I think he's shooting like 17% or something, maybe 20%. I don't know, but it's not good. But so neither is you mentioned Kanan Carlisle. His shooting is awful. Even Anthony Leal, who is known as a really good shooter, his free throw shooting is 50-something%. It's a little amazing in some of these numbers, and it really makes you wonder because Indiana was long known for having shooters. Boy, that ship sailed a long time ago, and they cannot find a shooter to save their life or can't get one here. They're going elsewhere maybe, but not having a shooter on that team has just been a blow for a long time. And Luke Goody is a really good shooter. Mackenzie Mbako is a really good shooter, but for whatever reason, it's like if his first couple of shots don't go down, he really goes into a funk and just does not play, and he can't fight through it. He hasn't fought through it in the last 2 games. He's only played like 15 minutes a game, and Indiana cannot have that from one of their best players.
Yeah, one of the things that you can do at evanmia.com is I have player projections for all of these different skills. And so one of the things you can look at is projected 3-point shooting for every single player on Indiana's roster. And I have a way of grading that versus kind of all national players. And Indiana only has 2 players that grade as a B- or better in 3-point shooting. That's Luke Goody and Mackenzie Mbako. Everyone else is a C+ or worse. And I haven't run the numbers on that, but that's got to be one of the worst in the Big Ten, if not, kind of among high majors, just in terms of number of capable 3-point shooting threats. So, that's kind of tough. It's hard to kind of move past that if you don't really have much threat from outside the arc.
Was that B- or better? Did you say I could?
Yeah, B- or better.
B- or greater. That's, again, not only is that a detriment, you have to have NBA level talent on your roster if you have any thoughts of making a Final Four or a run like that. I think I look back over the last 6 years, each team that has won the national championship had a minimum of I think of 2 to 3 NBA draft picks on it. They may not have gone that year. They might have stayed 1 year over, but they all have those draft picks on there. And I don't know that Indiana has any right now.
Yeah, and that certainly has been a barometer for success in the tournament in the past, is the teams that make a deep run usually have some sort of NBA talent on their roster. And yeah, if you don't, it doesn't mean that you can't do well, but even some of the players that Indiana has, they probably thought they would be talked about higher in the draft conversation by this point in the year, and that's just not been the case.
No, it has not. I don't want to keep you forever because I appreciate you so much, but man, make sure you go to evanmaya.com. I think that if you are someone who digs into that stuff, you will absolutely love getting in there and messing around. It is an absolutely great site because number one, it's different. It gives you something different than everybody else. What's one more thing maybe Indiana fans can hope for as this season progresses with what you've seen right now with the numbers? Because they've got to turn it around without question. They've got to start hitting 3-point shots. I mean, sometimes that doesn't mean a whole lot. It's not just that, but it's just the flow of the game. And it's just not been a good looking. The play has just not looked good.
I think one area that I feel like Indiana will do better going forward is in the rebounding department. This team profiles as a team that should be very good on the boards. But when you look at their national ranks in terms of how they've done rebounding the ball, they're barely top 100 nationally in both offensive and defensive rebounding rate. But when you look at the sort of the player projections for all these players, they rate better than that. And so I think just kind of you would hope there would be some positive regression to the mean in terms of just how good this team should be on the boards. And if they do improve in that department, I certainly think that will help. Another trend that I picked out today, kind of looking at Indiana's success, is really a lot of it does come down to how well they guard from inside the arc against their opponents. They are undefeated 9-0 this season when they hold opponents to under 52% from two, and they're winning those games by 18 points on average. And they're just 4-4 when they allow opponents to hit more than 52% of their shots from inside the arc. And so I do think that's probably going to be another key to watch going forward is, sometimes a good opponent shoots well from three. There's not a lot you can do about that. But you do have a lot more control on how you defend those shots from inside the arc. And so if Indiana can do a better job with that, I think that will really help.
Yeah, 3-point shooting defense has been an issue for Indiana. They tend to give those up a lot. If you look at the Indiana box score, you can see everybody got in on the party there. But man, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it because I could sit here and talk to you all day about this stuff. But hopefully we can get you back on as the season goes on. Make sure you go to Evan Miyakawa. It's EvanMiyakawa.com. It's that simple. But it is an absolute. A lot of you might know about it, and if not, now you do. But it's something that a lot of people use. A lot of people like me use. A lot of guys go to and use this because it is unique and it offers just a wealth of great knowledge, man. How did you get started in doing this? Evan's from Indy, by the way, originally. He's a California dude now, but originally from Indy. When did you move to the West Coast?
Yeah, that's right. I grew up about 10 minutes from Hinkle Fieldhouse. Big Butler Bulldogs fan. Went to the national championship game when Gordon Hayward almost hit that shot against Duke. So, very key memory for me growing up for sure. But yeah, I ended up getting my PhD in statistics at Baylor, and I sort of created this website as kind of a side project initially while I was in school, just kind of because I love college basketball. It's always been my favorite sport. And but it's really just organically grown so much over the last several years to the point where it's, widely used by Division I coaches as well as journalists and fans and people in the media like yourself. And so, I had a previous job doing consulting for NBA teams, but I've been able to focus full time now on my website, which has been really great. And I absolutely love it.
That's incredible, man. Well, we certainly appreciate it. I know I appreciate it because I love looking at that. And more importantly, I love talking to you about it because I can look at the numbers, but I can't always dig them out like you can. That's just natural for you, man, and that brain. Evan, big thanks, brother. And I cannot wait to get you back on. You're welcome to come on anytime, of course. And like I said, people, make sure you're going to evanmiyakawa.com. Go check that out. I know a bunch of you are into that because you comment all the time, but appreciate you very much.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.